You are now rocking with BizMode. Let's get into BizMode. What is BizMode? BizMode is entrepreneurship at its highest level. BizMode is flow state. BizMode is that hunger pain you feel. BizMode is success by your own definition. BizMode is operating from abundance. BizMode is what you make it. This is BizMode. What up, though? I am your host, Alex Bruno. I am the founder of Bruno Group Inc., a California law firm helping entrepreneurs and businesses with their legal stuff. Family, Alex Bruno here. This week, I want to introduce you to Trey Brown. Trey is a founder and the head of growth for Fresh Air Fresheners. Y'all remember the trees in the mirror so your car would not smell? Well, Trey and his co-founders decided to upgrade a product with better sense and song lyrics about driving that are written on the product. A really cool product that blends well in the social media world. Trey has been involved in the startup world and community since he graduated from Howard University, and he also obtained a master's degree in business innovation and tech communication from USC's Marshall School of Business. One thing that I took away from my chat with Trey is the importance of having critical communications with your partners and your team. Although some of these talks may be uncomfortable, if you delay or avoid these talks, they will affect the growth and development of your company. I got some other gems from our talk, but why don't we listen to Trey and you can tell us what you learned. All right, on to Trey. Have fun. Trey, welcome to BizMode.
Thank you so much, Alex, for inviting me to the podcast. I'm honored to be here and spend this time with you.
For sure. We're honored to have you on, and I'm grateful for you to be on. So tell us a little bit about Fresh.
Yeah, it's pretty simple, straightforward, right? Fresh is a subscription and retail-based air freshener brand. So currently, right now, what we do is we have a subscription model, charges people $8.50 a month for 2 paper air fresheners for their car or their locker or whatever. And then on the other side, we have the retail operation. So that's us getting into your Targets, your Ace Hardwares, your Urban Outfitters, so that you can buy it directly in a retail setting. So that's in a nutshell what Fresh is.
Nice. So the question you'll probably get a lot is why air freshener?
We get that all the time. To be specific, it's why the hell did you get into to air fresheners? And it's interesting. We're all friends, right? The founders, we're all friends. We all grew up in Michigan together, high school, and then our professional careers led us to Los Angeles. Being candid and frank, we were just tired of working for people, right? Like we were just sitting here wondering, like we're all smart, we're all intelligent guys. How is it that we don't have a business that's generating us all some sort of exterior revenue or profit so that we can spend it on whatever we want to? And so we decided to brainstorm, but I am in the group known as the ideator, right? Like I'm the ideator. I'm great at executing as well, but ideation is my thing. It's always been that way for me ever since a kid. And so one day I was just walking through, I think I was on like La Brea or something, and I just noticed how many people had paper air fresheners in their cars. And they were all Little Tree, right? So they're all Little Tree for the most part. And I was sitting there and I was saying, they haven't really innovated that thing in over 50 years. I wonder how big that market really is. So I just went ahead and did some research. How big is the air freshener market in total? And so it's $11.4 billion annually. So I said, okay, so there's a lot of space to make some money here. And then the second thing was, if you look closely, paper air fresheners are the fastest growing vertical inside the air freshener industry. So it's slated to grow the fastest through 2024. So for me, I looked at it as an opportunity to enter into a scaling vertical that we could then expand open after we tackled this specific vertical, which gives us the most opportunity to grow as fast as we want to grow. So that's what it was. And then the other aspect of it was that I've had startups before. A couple of us have had businesses before. I focus mostly on tech, so I can speak to my own experience. And one thing that I realized is that while I love technology, I love to invest in new technology. I love to read up and be current on what's happening right now and what's going to happen in the next 3 to 5. What I realized was that while I was constantly trying to tackle that industry, I realized that I didn't have the control. Like I didn't have the power. I didn't have the distribution in order to get done what I needed to get done. Right? I was always having to ask somebody to do something. And it clicked about 30, 31 for me. And I was like, I'm tired of it. It went back full circle. I was like, I'm tired of asking people for things, right? Like I need to get this partnership to work to do this. I was like, I'm more than capable, or the team that we have now is more than capable of creating a product that people like, that people want, and scaling that product. And so we were like, we need to go back to the basics. And I feel like there will be a wave of that, right? Where people are like, well, nobody's buying apps off the app store anymore, right? So like that phase is ending. Those innovative spaces are narrowing. And so I think that us getting into this stage now is a great opportunity for us to not only scale, but to just prove out that model for other people coming behind us, which is you don't have to do technology. There's so many ways that you can create a business that could be tech enabled, obviously, right? That's the world we live in, but that can be tech enabled. That's a hard product that people really want. And you can make a ton of money doing that. You just have to have the mindset that you can do it. And then you have to be open to researching and figuring out stuff you don't know. And then if you can't do it, then finding somebody else who is great at that thing, picking their brain and or bringing them to your team, right? So that's kind of what our journey is. And that's why we decided to get into air fresheners.
That's a great nuanced answer in terms of like, there's so many gems right there right off the top, but I really love how you kind of address to be a startup, you don't have to be so focused on the tech can't be, you don't have to build the app, like you said, or build the next social network or something like that.
Right.
There's so many different things and so many different opportunities out there.
Agreed.
So that's great. So one thing about like Fresh, you started with the subscription model.
Yes.
Is there a reason why you wanted to go right to subscriptions?
Yeah. So it basically was just getting our boots on the ground and figuring out what worked and what didn't. So for us, it was one of those things where, again, I say the barrier where let's say if I'm trying to sell something to Facebook and they don't want it, there's no way to get around that. Like I always have to go through them. So I learned that in my previous startup, which is trying to get these large companies to do business with you. It's 1 in a million, right? So how do you get to the customer directly? And not only how do you get to the customer, but how do you do it profitably? And so I figured that out because we were going to these stores, some smoke shops would take us. The majority of us wouldn't. These car wash chains, they would take us, but the majority of them wouldn't. So after a while, after the first year, we were like, you know what? One of the founders, Gary, is involved in multiple subscription businesses. He actually worked for a company called Succulent Studios, which is the largest succulent subscription provider in North America. So we were like, why don't we just do subscription? Because we figured out, there's nowhere else really to go with it. And I think this could work. We just have to make it make sense to the customer. So we actually get a higher CLV by offering subscriptions and doing like different little things that work, right, for the customer. So we've expanded our line because of what the customer feedback, right, what they wanted. And so that's kind of how we got to subscription is we just said, you know what? We're tired of trying to work with these big guys. We'll either prove it to them this way or we'll just continue along our own path and continue to generate revenue. But either way, it's hard for us to lose. And the model ended up working. So that's why I was like, okay, we're just going to keep on doing this. And subscriptions, there is subscription fatigue out there. But I tell people it all depends on needs and wants. There is subscription fatigue for wants. There is not subscription fatigue for needs. Right. So if you talk about a food service, for example, it's fatigue because there's a million of them out there. The food's never really that good. Right. And on top of it, it's a want. You just don't want to cook. But if you're looking at it from the highest level of, OK, how can I make a subscription work? Our model, which isn't stopping at paper air fresheners, it is a want. The air freshener is a want. But that's not our end goal. We are moving on to products that people need. But in order to get there, we have to produce what's called brand to customer trust, right? Like they have to know where to go to get brands that they like. And then once you reinforce that subconsciously with products that they need, it makes your case a lot easier to sell to that same customer. So I know it was a long-winded answer, but I'm trying to give the whole sort of thought process behind why we chose to go with subscriptions, because we believe that in the end, it's going to be a game changer for us as an air freshener company, not just a paper air freshener company, but an air freshener company in general.
Very nice. No, I love the longer answers because you're doing my job for me. So it's really good. You mentioned subscription fatigue.
Yeah.
So what for you would you say is a good thing that you're able to do to keep that customer attention?
Right. So with us, we have a few different things. One is the ability to have the customer choose, right? So we have custom scents that they can pick from and then pick and choose. So they get whichever one they want each month. So that's the first thing. The second thing is we have so many of them that it allows them to pick and choose it over a certain amount of time, which inevitably increases our CLV. And then the third thing is the ability to create or push culture within our brand is also another aspect of that, right? Like it's giving them increased value because if, picture me rolling, drive slow, homie, all this stuff, however that customer is feeling in that month, right? Oh, I want this one. I want that one. It's just the options just excite them. That's what I think is one of those things that sets us apart as compared to all the other ones where it's like you can get food, but you can only get so much. There's only so much customization you can get there because they're trying to scale it out. But with us, we just have so much that we can offer a customer that they love it.
I think the choice is really good. So I think that's a very good skill because like you've mentioned, I've tried some of these food subscription ones and the ones where they're like, we're sending you the meals and you eat them or you're not.
Right.
It's kind of like that, which as opposed to I get to pick the meals and customize them and say, no, I don't want that. I want this.
Right. And by the third week, you're like, man, I've had turkey and squash lasagna for the fifth time now. I don't want it anymore. So yeah.
Very true. So what would you say have been challenges you've experienced getting Fresh launched and trying to get it off the ground?
Oh, man, where to start? I think I'll just lay a couple out because obviously you're familiar with the entrepreneurial journey. So it's unlimited. It's like space. Right? But, I think
sure.
Some of the biggest challenges for us would be convincing outside people that this would work, right? Especially in the venture capital world, right? Like, because there aren't too many people that are experts in air fresheners. So like they don't know. So we have to teach them. And the minute that you're teaching a venture capitalist about something and they're not like in it, then you're kind of at a loss. So that's the first thing. Sure. The second thing would be retention, right? Like retention, trying to figure out how we increase the CLV customer. And so that's a time thing, which is the third challenge for me personally is time. But specifically speaking to the issue of the retention, right? Like that for subscription businesses will make or break you. So for us, it was just, like I said, trying to figure that aspect out. How do we increase the time that people are buying these air fresheners month in, month out? And then how do we expand past this, right? Like how do we grow to stage 2? I think those would be the most, the challenging things. And then I could add, growing as a team. I think that obviously like I have expertise in this area in partnerships, growth, understanding venture capital, right? Like I went to school for all of this stuff. Other people have different sets of strengths, right, for themselves. But because it's a startup, it's all over the place. So it's all jumbled into one. So it is a growing process. And a lot of times people don't like to cover that because the venture capital world will tell you need a super strong team. And it's like, well, you can build a super strong team, but it's more nuanced than that, right? Like you have to learn how to work with each other. You have to learn how, people best work, when to best email them, when to not, right? Like all these different things that become a challenge over time, but you get better at it. And so that's what really makes a great team. But definitely a challenge there is trying to learn each other and fill each other out in the partnership that you're in, for sure.
That's totally the case. And that was actually my next follow-up was kind of on the team side.
Yeah.
Whether it's your partners and kind of making sure you're all on the right page. Yeah. In terms of vision, how has that been or how has that evolution been?
Yeah, so that has been a crazy evolution. I mean, for us in the beginning, it was more so people, we had the team and you had different people at different points that were completely bought in. So I was bought in at certain times, completely 100%, busting my butt to make sure this happened. Somebody else wouldn't be, right? Then somebody else would. I'd take time off because it started off as this little side thing. We didn't know if it would work or if it wouldn't. But over time, the team members that decided that this was going to be something that we could grow and define and scale, everyone got on board because they knew that there was going to be success at the end of the road. So it's a lot easier to get people to focus in when they can see success at the end of the road, right? But again, we had a partner early on in the process that, love them to death, but they just weren't completely bought in to the process. And so as a recourse, we had to be like, all right, we're giving equity to people that are fully bought into this, right? And, we don't have to necessarily pull them along and all this stuff because we don't have time for that now. We've reached a different level in the business where it was cool and it's a nice concept at first. Now we're actually generating revenue. Now we actually have expenses, right? Now we've got to actually pull this thing together, and you're either 100% on deck or you're not. And that's okay, which is what I was trying to explain to this person a couple months ago, which was, listen, that's not why you're here, right? You're not here in Los Angeles for that. You are chasing something else. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person or that I'm a bad person. It just means that we've matured in our business conversations, that we can talk about this realistically and say, look, this isn't a thing that you really want to chase, and that's okay. But if the rest of us are going to chase it, then we have to be rewarded for that. And then you can take your percentage and have that and not have to worry about it. Uncomfortable at first, but definitely a growth for everybody because we were like, this is what we came to do. This is what we're going to accomplish. You're on board or you're not. And we resolved it amicably.
That's really a good point because a lot of people, we talked about evolution, but a lot of people let things kind of fester.
Right.
And it could be like the downfall of a company.
Yes.
And it's great to have those upfront conversations and education with people in terms of, like you said, it doesn't have to be something bad. It's just, it's not working. It's just, you're not into it. It's okay.
Right.
That's a really good point for everybody who's out there.
Yeah.
So I got to ask you the COVID question. And the COVID question is, has your company had to make any changes because of it? Or have you experienced any kind of changes because of it?
You know what? Not really. For us, it became more of an opportunity than anything. And I say that with a full understanding of all the things that are happening along with COVID. So I don't want to make light of the situation. But being honest and realistic from a business situation, it was beneficial for us in many different ways. Number one is people always say, well, there are less cars on the road. And I say, yes, that's true, but you still have essential workers and they're usually driving. They get it from point A to point B. Like some are taking the bus. Not many people are taking the Ubers and stuff like that, but they're driving. So they're doing more driving back and forth because there's more load on them. So we're still good. And I think e-commerce went up by like 33% in that first quarter when COVID had hit. And then the second thing is with all the police shootings and all of this, the Black Lives Matter and everything like that, it coincided with that time period. Sure. So for us as a Black-owned business, it became like a highlight. So we got a bunch of support from people on Instagram and Facebook, Buy Black Business and all this other stuff. And then all these other different companies started opening the door and the conversations to, hey, we'd like to partner with you. We'd like to offer you in our stores. We'd like to. So again, just being honest, yeah, it was a great time for us for the past year. And then it allows us to propel into this year because we made a ton of mistakes in this first year. Like we learned what to do, what not to do. And so now we get to move forward. So we're looking at it like, look, we're fully prepared and ready to hit the go button and scale like crazy in this next year. So.
All right. So speaking about next year, what does it look like for you?
Next year for us is really just, for us, it's about we want to reach about 40 to 45,000 subscribers. So in our first year, we did 10,000 subscribers with all the messed up stuff that we had to deal with. Uh-huh. So we're confident that we can reach that. And then we have different partners that we will be working with in this next year to help us scale to that level. So everything that we don't know basically is what we will be outsourcing to people that know exactly what they're doing, have proven it time and time again, and want to work with us. So For us, it's trying to get to that first million.
You already gave a great piece of advice in terms of like how to overcome things. But what's another piece of advice you give a new entrepreneur?
Yeah, I would say make sure that the concept that you have, the idea that you have, run it by people in the industry. Customer discovery is everything. So before you just jump into something, do the research on the industry that you're jumping into, especially if you're not an expert in that field. It helps to have experts in that field tell you whether this is something that could work or not. And that happens in the customer discovery phase, where basically you're calling people up or emailing in the industry, say, hey, I need 5 minutes. I just want to do some customer discovery here. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I literally just want to gain information. And then if you get the validation of people that are in that industry and say it could be something worthwhile, then you want to go ahead and build a team that's going to help you execute that. Do not go out and try and build a team with your friends just because they're your friends. Don't do that. Pick a team that can help scale your business to become profitable. That is the key, so that everybody's seeing a little bit of money from it. And the third thing would be just don't give up. If people don't understand the concept and idea, but you've done the research behind it and you have seen that it works, don't give up. Give yourself a good year and a half to push it to see if it'll work and if you can gain traction. And if it does, then you could succeed beyond your wildest dreams. And that's an even better feeling, right? So
nice. No, it is. And thank you for sharing that. And I think those are 3 great points and 3 great things for people to fall back on when they're trying to go on that journey. So what is inspiring you right now outside of your company, of course, like a book, podcast, some kind of movie? What would you say is inspiring you right now?
It's going to sound crazy, but what's inspiring? I'm a huge cryptocurrency fan, right? Blockchain. So what's inspiring me now is all the people 3 years ago that were against Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and all that. Not all of them, but a lot of them are now coming around to the concept of how valuable Bitcoin is, not as a currency necessarily, but as an asset class. And so I've just been into it this whole time, going through that ride from 2017, I think when I first started, to now, and then just seeing the transition with PayPal and Ray Diallo and a bunch of different companies investing in it over cash, to me is amazing. That is something that inspires me. I can't tell you how transformative I think that whole asset class or cryptocurrency is in general is going to be in the next 5 to 10 years. So I'm just excited about that. In terms of content outside of that, honestly, man, if I'm watching something, it's going to be entertainment, right? So it's going to be like Netflix. I'm watching The Crown right now. It's a great show. Very great in terms of like strategy and stuff like that. And also, I love to play Call of Duty. And people they say all the time, oh, you waste time with video games. And I'm like, you don't understand. I'm like, Call of Duty, Warzone, when I get on with my friends, it's literally about strategy and execution. And more so now in COVID, because I can't go out there and, throw a ball or shoot a ball. Like I can't do any of that. We can't do any of that. So to be able to work as a team, which I think is one of the most underrated aspects of video games that require partnership within teammates and members, especially, like I said, throughout COVID, I think is one of those things that definitely inspires me, right? So, you got to find creative ways during COVID. You got to find ways to build that up. Those are things I think inspire me right now.
That's very cool. Very cool. It's like you're paintballing without paintball, right? So
right, exactly
doing that.
Exactly. I get to talk to my boys. I get to tell them when I see them. I'm like, if we go to an event or something, we'd be able to basically just give each other crap, basically being like, man, you really suck last night. So it's just a thing that it's fun because you get to build with the people that you know and execute on teamwork with them. And when you do it well, it's a great feeling. And that translates throughout everything. So I just add that because it's fun, it's entertaining, and I get to do team building while I'm doing it.
Pretty cool. Yeah. So how can people get a hold of you if they want to learn more about you or Fresh? What's the best way?
Oh, yeah. So if you want to get me, my email is Trey, it's Trey at ridefresh, ridefrsh.com. You can reach out to me anytime, day or night. I'm always on my phone, or if I'm not on it, I have it near me. So yeah, people can reach me there and ask me any questions they have. It doesn't have to be related to Fresh though, because one thing I love to do is give back, right? Whether if that's information or if that's, anything, it's just being able to give back to people that need the information, because I needed it and I still need information. I am by no means finished learning. So, reach one, teach one.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you for offering that. And Trey, that's it. Thank you for your time today and for sharing your journey.
Alex, thank you so much for this interview. I thought it was great. I would love to follow up sometime if we get an opportunity to do that.
Oh, for sure. Stay safe.
Until next time, BizMode family, this is your host, Alex Bruno, Bruno Group Inc., BizMode Podcast. Keep your family first. Always strive for perfection. Don't forget, none of this is legal advice. By the way, what happened to peace? Peace.